President. A notice of this meeting was legally posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Board member Pastor James Irvin is unable to attend the meeting today. Please remember that items do not have to be taken in order shown on the agenda, and please join us in turning off your cell phones to silent mode. We have one item on tonight's discussion action agenda, Board. A consideration of resolution extending depository contract for funds of independent school district. I'm going to ask Mr. Fraley, our superintendent, to start for us, and then he can direct us from there.
Thank you, President Neal. Good evening, everyone. This is a kind of routine thing that we need to get approved now. We have a time-sensitive thing, so we'll have Ms. Barbara kind of explain what it is and why we're doing this tonight. Thanks.
This is the renewal on our bank depository contract. We can renew every 2 years for up to 3 additional 2-year periods. This is the second renewal. It is due to TEA on June 15th, and so that is why I asked if we could have it on tonight's agenda so that we wouldn't be late in our submission.
And Ms. Barbara, we have one more possible opportunity. This is the second, if I'm correct.
This is the second, yes.
And there's a possibility of another, if need to, later on.
In 2 more years,
In 2
yes,
more
one
years.
more. And then we have to go back out for RFP.
Okay.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It said extension at the current contract pricing. What does it exactly mean?
It's pages and pages of
Right.
prices based on our different transactions, and then they take that from, we have interest that's earned on the account, they net it, and then our fees are the difference.
Okay, if they give us interest, and in the future, interest rate goes higher, are we still stay with what we committed, or we get the higher interest rate?
The interest is not tied to the charges. So if interest goes up, then we get more interest, and and that goes against our charges.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is with the existing terms. That's what my question was. In other words, they could say, well, okay, you all agreed with the interest rate X.
No, yeah.
Okay.
We did not agree to the interest rate, we agreed to the pricing terms.
Fees, the fees they
The
charge.
fees.
Yeah,
certain fees.
I'm trying to clarify. It's just not-
Yes.
Okay, good question. Good. Board, any more questions on this particular item? So we have a motion then at this time?
Mr. President, I'd move that the board approve the resolution extending the depository bank contract with Bancorp South for 1 additional 2-year term.
Second.
We have a motion and second from Mrs. Fitz, and second from Mr. Montoya. Any further discussion, Board? All in favor, we please vote by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passed unanimously to extend. Thank you.
Thank you all for that.
Board, we will now move into our budget workshop, and I'm going to ask Mr. Fraley again to start us with the budget workshop and move forward as we work on the budget. We're all anxious about it. I've been reading about it, and I'm really anxious and excited. So, Mr. Fraley, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Y'all recall I sent you all an email, I guess it was last week or so, because we weren't sure where we were yet.
Yes, sir.
But Ms. Barber has done a tremendous job of working through this phase of uncertainty. And right now, I'm at a point where I want to say thank you to the legislature for what they've done. They've set out to improve financing and to try and provide some relief to taxpayers and provide more funds for the school systems. And at this current time, as we sit here tonight, I think that mission has been accomplished. And so I want to let Ms. Barber kind of walk you through what we know at this point. It's not signed into legislation yet by the governor, but we have a timeline to adopt the budget, and we want to walk you all through where we are right now. So, Ms. Barber, to let you go forward.
All right, so you have some paperwork in front of you and a short agenda, but we have quite a bit of information to go through. And first of all, I wanted to go over some highlights from legislation. So we got an increase in our state funding, but a decrease in our property tax rates. So that ended up in a net increase in our funding. Our basic allotment was at $5,140, and it's now at $6,160. That is a 19.84% increase. And our M&O tax rate decreased from 1.17 to 1.06840. Now, what you'll see in our budget is an increase in our tax revenue, and that's because of our property values, not because of the tax rate.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's not the tax rate. the
No,
property
it's
value.
not the tax rate, it's the property values, and we have nothing to do with property values. So this increase that we got, the legislation mandated that 30% of the increase was to go to pay raises. Of that 30%, 75% of this was to go to the teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors, with a priority to those with over 5 years of experience. And then the remaining 25% to all others except administrators.
So all of those would include groundkeepers,
Yes.
cafeteria workers?
Yes,
Would the teacher aide be included in that? or-
yes, everybody.
Okay.
What they did not do is define what an administrator is. Now, what you'll see in our budget as we go on is everyone does get a increase, but at different rates.
But okay, so let me see if I want to make sure I understand correctly. The raises we're talking about are raises from the money that the legislature has said they would give to school districts for raises.
Yes,
Doesn't have anything to do with what we did last year when we gave an increase to our employees of a cost of living raise.
no,
It has nothing, that's two separate
no,
things?
no.
Okay.
Two
I
separate
just want to make
things.
sure that I understand correctly, because
They gave us flexibility in the raise on who we could give it, on not necessarily who we can give it to, but how much we
how
give.
much?
Some other items in legislation that they changed is our pre-K funding. Currently, we are funded on a half-day program, and that will continue. What they are planning on doing, which we don't have the details yet, is giving us a separate amount of funding that would be equivalent to a full-day funding, full-day pre-K. There are many other items that are unknown, such as they want to look at a master teacher program where teachers do some kind of specific things that are unknown at this time, and we get funding for that we pass on to teachers. There are still a lot of unknowns out there, but the biggest piece we do know, and that's what we have built the budget on.
Do you think that the master's degree, looking at those teachers for mentoring, the beginning teachers maybe? I'm just thinking that maybe that's why, to look at those master teachers who are master level teachers, to take those beginning teachers and work with them, something we tried years ago.
Oh, we still do that.
Okay,
We still do that. We have mentor teachers.
but funding,
Yeah. But it's more than just being a mentor.
okay.
But that has not been hammered out yet.
Okay.
And then last month, we had that special discussion about the state allotment being funded on prior year tax values. Well, they've changed that now to current year tax values. So that just means just figuring out our funding in a little bit different way is all.
Ms. Barber, around how many, what the percentage of we receive, or our budget comes from the tax, property tax? Any idea?
The percentage of our budget that comes, well, that would be,
Yeah, from local revenue versus state revenue. Yeah.
I'm looking down at it, I would say close to 50%.
If you recall, that was one of their goals a few sessions back, and they got close, but then the state level has been dropping
Right.
for the past several years.
Well, you know what, and I'm
Didn't it
looking
get into
at
the
prior
30s?
year.
They're like 37 or 39?
Right,
Some places.
that is how it currently is. The state is now much higher. So, looking at this, property taxes are coming in at about 23 million, and state aid is at 33 million. So it has
Yeah, well-
increased significantly. So, following our agenda is the budget. And we have a general fund budget to start with. And you'll see the numbers there. I've got 3 columns. The first column is our current budget. The second column is what was adopted. And the third column is our projected budget. Our current revenues are at 51.5 million, and we're projecting to go to 59.4 million.
And that increase is from that increased stuff that we
Yes,
got from the state?
that is
Okay.
correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So you'll see our, in the middle of the page, the foundation entitlements,
Gotcha.
23 million, and now it's 32 million.
Gotcha. Okay.
On the second page, we have our expenditures by function. And we're proposing a balanced budget of 59.4 million, equal to our revenues.
So just looking at this, it looks like there's been an increase in every one of the areas.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And that's due to the money that we're getting, or is that was just how you figured that out with what we
Well,
had?
that's due to every class of employee got a raise, some type of raise. COLA, I tried to give COLAs to different departments and campuses, so you're going to see an increase everywhere.
So in some of that, you had the flexibility to decide, then, you know what, everybody got something, but then you had the ability to decide how much based on
Yes,
the
yes.
positions.
And we
stuff
got a
like that.
lot more money than what we had to allocate to salaries.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna
that-
ask.
It would,
'cause
it
like
would be
every-
interesting to take, I apologize.
No.
It would be interesting to take that roughly $8 million increase that we're seeing and split that out almost like a pie chart and show us where that's going.
Yeah.
Because one of the interesting things to me is that I would have expected instruction to have increased more than it did if a lot of that was related to pay raises for teachers. And I see it appears from this that it's probably very spread out throughout the budget, but it'd be nice to be able to really kind of see.
I can do that
Yeah,
for
that's good.
when I present
That'd be
at the board
wonderful.
meeting,
Okay.
a pie chart.
Great.
Yeah, it's good.
Great, myself a note.
And this is existing programs that we have. Are we adding any new programs to the, for
No, I
example,
do not believe
instruction?
so.
We don't?
I mean, can you think of any programs we're adding? No, we're not adding any programs. We are adding a fine arts
Didn't they,
director.
didn't they put a base salary increase on every year, like from the start?
Yes, they did. What that's called the stat
Every teacher has
min.
to have a higher base, which means if the state pulls their money, we could be in a lurch because we won't have enough money to handle
Yes,
that.
they are, we are being told this is an ongoing increase. This is not a 1 or 2 year deal.
It's permanently funded.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've read that too. I read today about those numbers you were given, but I can't find where I read it. I was thinking maybe it was in this book, but I couldn't find the numbers, but I know it was on the TASB website, what the breakdown was, and they were pretty, I mean, it's a law, I mean, it's
Right.
ours.
What's to look out for is if they interpret it as the dollar amount they gave this legislative session, years out, as we do percentage increases, we get above that number, does that percent of state support continue, or does they just stay static, and then we're kind of on beyond that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what to look out for.
10 years down the road, we'd be in
Correct.
trouble.
Could be. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic.
We're continuing to see large increases in function 12 there. What is that attributed to?
Function 12 is our librarians.
Okay.
We have struggled with finding librarians, and so many times we have used aides. So I believe all of our campuses now have a certified librarian, and they
Oh,
were
that's
included in that
fantastic.
raise. So yes, that's one of the reasons why you see it.
You mean that in
Increase.
the upcoming year, we'll have those? This year, we don't have, we have at least 2 campuses
Right.
that don't have certified librarians, a minimum of 2.
Right. Right, yes, this new year,
But I think,
I
I
mean,
know
we
Nettie
still
Marshall,
have to find
Dr.
them.
Rodriguez said he's looking for a
Right.
qualified full-time
right.
librarian.
And we,
for
we
that.
struggle with that. And so we budget as if
We
we're going
budget
to
for one.
hire,
Okay.
but then
Okay.
sometimes that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So, my question is, like, for example, under the instruction, the increase is increased quite a bit. That increase is based on money for employees to be hired, or employees that we have, or is that a
The-
different thing?
Our salary schedule increased,
Okay,
but the amount we have to meet, our 75% has to be on our existing employees.
okay. So, but that reflects that, like
Yes,
that
it
plus 2
does.
million that it's in bringing it up, that's gonna include for the employees that we have now?
Yes.
And any employees that we may have to
That we will hire,
Okay.
yes. You can't hire someone and pay them on a different schedule.
right.
You know, so.
Right.
Mr. Fairley, on your judgment, our district has enough counselors and,
Do we have enough?
yes, sir.
Until we are very clear with what we're asking them to do, I can't really answer that question yet.
Yes, sir.
Because they have so many other duties mixed in
Exactly.
beyond where they should be.
That's,
And so if we can pull those other duties off of them, then I'll have a better idea of, do we have adequate number of counselors? And we had a conversation about that this morning.
Yeah.
So in preparing for this increase, we reached out to all our principals, all our departments, basically district-wide, and asked for what we called a wish list item. We had a committee that met and prioritized those items, discussed them, and then we took those to Mr. Fraley, and he looked at that list and made his decision on some of them, and those were then incorporated into this budget. And that's what you'll find starting on the page. It says site request amount and recurring.
Okay.
So these items, these are not, everything did not make it into it. These are the items that did make it into the budget that we felt needed to be addressed. And they're broken down by priority. And I've also noted whether they're recurring or not. So we're looking at upgrading cameras at all campuses that need them, so it's across several. We're doing quite a bit of renovations in portables. We're
Just
also,
A couple quick highlights. Again, the cameras for sure. Intercom upgrades, these are things that are all about safety. We're adding 2
Yes.
police officers as well.
2 new
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, that's
Are
good.
there.
That's good.
a
2
a
more,
good portion of
licensed
these are
counselors
related to
as well.
safety.
Good, good.
We
Okay.
have 2 counselors. Those, I think, are some you all would really want to know about. The doors at the high school, replacing the hardware on those doors as well. Even, and some portables, the TGR and Brigade need some work in a hurry, so we're doing that, and some painting at the high school. Mr. Martin's famous bridge is gonna be repainted at a premium, but we'll get that done. Again, I just thank Ms. Barbie for her work in reaching out to folks and their response. But I knew those are the ones I wanted to quickly highlight for you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss the security issues and the police officers and whatnot. So we're good.
And even looking at like the gym seats, those are safety issues. We've got some seats that are broken.
Right.
And those are safety issues that we felt needed to be addressed.
So where it says amount, and then I notice it says recurring, and some of them have yes and no. Can you explain
Right.
that to me?
So if it's recurring, it's probably because it's a salary, it's going to continue.
Okay.
If it's not recurring, it's just a one-time deal. And I wanted to point that out because on the second page, you'll see that of the 1.7 million, 617,000 of it is ongoing, and 1 million, a little over 1 million is one time. That means that next year, that those funds come available again. That leaves us flexibility then to address new items in future years.
I want to express my gratitude in the fact that you created this list. And I'm not sure who that goes to, if that goes to Ms. Barber.
Ms. Barber, yes.
Mr. Fraley, but this, I think, is the first time we've seen it broken down like this, a prioritized list on these types of spending needs, and I greatly appreciate it. It really helps us know that we're focusing on those priorities and knocking those issues off one by one, so thank you very much for
You're
your
welcome.
diligence on
Now,
this.
one reason we were able to do that this year is because of the extra money. The last several years, we have just been pinching pennies, and we haven't been able to give out a bunch of extra like this, but
Well, it's to take care of some needs.
yes.
We're not just passing money out. She's used the term wish list, but these aren't just willy-nilly wishes. These are some things that need to be
Now,
done.
you're talking about caulking
Exactly.
windows to prevent leaks.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
you know, stadium parking lot lining, lining the stadium parking lot, which is badly overdue. No, this is, it looks like everything was
Well thought out.
well
Yes.
thought out.
Yes.
Well, and again, I thank Ms. Barber for her leadership in getting it started, but I also thank the rest of the staff for really prioritizing the needs. They had a priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 kind of things. And I just think that there's a whole team effort.
Yes,
to
it
get
was.
there.
It was.
Mr. Fraley.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, I come from athletic department.
Mhm.
Our tennis court, I don't know, have you been in City Park, the tennis court on the City Park?
I have
don't
not.
know. Anyways, where the fences are and the concrete, they opened up it slightly. They used to have a caulk in there, filled up with
Okay.
caulk. Now it's cracks open up. Every time it rains, the sand comes out.
Okay.
And a few years from now, it's just gonna be.
Talking about our tennis courts?
Yes, sir.
I'm
And I
gonna-
talked to Ralph.
I'm going to present to you all a proposal to get that taken care of this summer, or this fall.
Yes, sir. Very good.
Yes, sir.
I had a question about the UIL increase for the high school.
Yes.
Are the teachers who teach this, are they going to get some more money? Are we just getting more like travel funds?
It's not, this is not set up for the teachers to get more money. This is for the student needs.
The travel and
Travel,
preparation?
supplies, yes.
Okay.
And they- it-
How much
it's a
do we
medium.
pay the UIL teachers extra? Or do they get anything extra?
You have stipends, it's in your
Yes, they have
salary schedule,
stipends.
in your
Okay, so-
compensation plan, there's a stipend in there.
No, well, all the UIL teachers are doing a really good job. We need to recognize that they really have done a wonderful job.
That's
We're
why it's costing
competing
us more.
against everybody.
That's why it's costing us more, because we're winning, we're competing. It's a good problem to have.
Before we move on to the other two funds, I would like to look at the page that's labeled Planned Fund Balance Draws. So into this budget, we've built, a new philosophy in fund balance that we will draw down every year certain amounts for uniforms and instrument replacement, personal computer replacement, white fleet replacement, classroom furniture replacement, and athletic equipment replacement. So this is what we had planned on pulling out of fund balance this year. Instead, It's just built into this budget.
Which
But
page is that on?
that is, it's
The third
called
page,
Plan
fourth page
Fund
into your
Balance.
packet, fourth page into your packet.
Okay, I went by that.
Okay.
Okay, so you
It's in front of
incorporated,
this one. Okay.
you incorporated these budgets into the big budget
Yes,
without
so
having to take from our general
without
fund
having to
budget?
take out from fund balance, that is
That's
So we
correct.
won't see those changes every month where you transfer from this fund to that fund, this is what you're doing instead?
Well,
Not for these items
No.
that we had talked about previously in terms of a one-time purchase out of fund balance. So we'll be bringing this forth for approval when the time comes, like with the baseball software renovation, we'll
Oh,
discuss
okay.
that tonight with you all.
Okay.
But what she's pointing out is that instead of this coming out of the fund balance, this is going to come out of the regular budget
Right.
instead.
instead of planning on decreasing our fund balance in the future,
I got you, okay.
But
okay.
these are all
Yes.
things we had previously walked with you, I walked with you all through when I used this little sheet.
Oh, no, I remember, oh, definitely, I was just
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
trying to understand
right.
how it was being allocated on the budget.
I think this is good planning, I really do. I think there's things that have been let go for a while, or maybe not given full attention. And we need to fix it and make it like it should be, not just repair it to get by. And that's gonna be a little kickback or pushback on that, but that's what we should do it right one time.
Mr. President, I want to kind of take a pause and walk through the baseball softball renovations that we had previously talked about. That's on here as well. Let me just pass these down. Actually, we got another one passed down. Okay, well, let's just, Ms. Barber, let Ms. Barber can help that. I've talked to her about it, but she may want to copy that. Okay. What this is, if you look on this planned fund balance draws at the bottom, it talks about the one-time baseball softball field renovations. If you recall, we had begun with set-aside funding for baseball field renovations and some money for a gym somewhere that we're not going to be doing anymore. So I'd asked to reallocate those funds to this purpose, okay? So we have a proposal in that we'll be bringing to you all next week to do this. So this breakdown, this sheet I passed out breaks down the cost of the turf renovations. Then we have some alternates that are all tied to baseball. Okay? And that comes out to an amount less than what we have set aside for. And so additional alternates would be at the football stadium, there's a lot of muddy area by the weight room and all. We want to get all that turfed and cleaned up, and a concrete walkway, sidewalk from the home side to the visitor side outside of the fence. So that's what that's all about. And then number 7 is the tennis court resurfacing. To resurface all 8 tennis courts and replace the tennis court windscreens as well. And so that gives you the alternate totals and then the total athletic renovation totals that align with what Ms. Barber's working on. Just wanted to let you all know that that's where that's coming from.
So what you've just presented us is basically a breakdown on the
Baseball
big
softball.
numbers on the one that Ms. Barber
Right.
gave
Yes,
us,
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so if you look on the second half of that sheet about fund balance, you'll see the 1.9 million and the 85,000, that equals to the 2,001,170 for the, and those are built into the budget. We will not be pulling that out of fund balance.
Wow.
So that's this is one reason why we're seeing this, we're still trying to funnel a lot of funds into our 81 and 51 to make repairs beyond what the bond is doing. And so when you said you expected to see more in 11, it's much more spread out and quite a bit to 81 and 51. The only thing that we will still pull out of fund balance this coming year is for the high school boys and girls basketball visitor locker room for $300,000.
Wow, that's gonna leave us a very healthy fund balance.
It should, yes.
Mr. Fraley, on this, the baseball field renovations, in the long term, we're gonna have less maintenance on that field. If we renovate it like we want, it's just like the football field.
Correct.
Once we put that on there, the maintenance cost goes way down for time, labor, machinery, so that we're investing to save money down for year after year. It's kind of like the LED lights. It's the
Yes, sir,
same type of thing.
most certainly, and the coach will spend less time mowing grass versus playing and coaching baseball.
Correct.
The same thing in softball as well. The water bill goes down. We're not watering the grass. not
Water
mowing the
bill,
grass.
yes.
And not only that, baseball field is just not safe.
I agree.
It's just not safe, and so we had to fix it, and so I just want to thank you all for allowing us to look into this type of investment. So we're excited about that.
Mr. Fred, is there a drainage on a baseball visiting bullpen? You know, is it drops out, that the water goes to neighbors, or there's actually?
There's a little something, creek or something there that goes there. This construction or renovation on the baseball field, they're going to create kind of a holding tank below the field.
I see.
So the water will drain down through it. When it gets to a certain
Yes.
level, then it's pushed out into the current piping system.
Good.
You know, these are items that should have been done a long time ago, and I'm excited that we have the opportunity to make a difference. And I'm thinking about our baseball field that'll be used in the future for playoff games. I mean, it's getting it in order to do, you know, those areas that tennis courts, that we can do those things with. So this is exciting. This
Not
is
only
great.
for playoff, this Saturday I drove by jogging, there was a bunch of teams where I actually had tournaments. It's
Is
one
that-
of them.
Great.
So, and again, we thank the community for passing the bond, which allows us to take care of other bigger ticket items.
Yes,
And then we can use our fund balance, our regular budget for these types of things. We're very, very appreciative of the community for their support.
And the structure, by not tying up our total increase in salaries, allows us for flexibility in future years. When we present our compensation plan, you'll see that we have given a healthy increase, but it also gives us flexibility.
Makes sense. Looking back at the proposed budget, so when we look at function 81, that number encompasses
All those items.
all of these items.
Yes.
Wow.
On a stadium parking lot, are we doing the blacktop and line it, or just as is?
We're just going to probably sweep it off and reline
You
it
know,
as it
those
is.
plants growing up everywhere, look like my hometown. Desert.
Well, we want to kind of keep it a softscape.
And Pam, if you add up all those items, you'll see that what's allocated, the 2.7 million, is about 17,000 more. That's just a little buffer I put into 81.
That's good.
I would like to move on to the student nutrition budget. The thing of note there is, besides their increase in their pay, is Robin has applied for a grant through the Department of Agriculture, a potential of a little over $300,000. So I've built that into the budget. We may get less, we may get nothing. If we get, whatever we get, the budget will be amended to reflect what we really do get.
So at the present time, you're including that 300,000?
Yes,
Grant that
yes.
she's applied for?
Yes.
And this year too, with the student nutrition, I know we started last year with feeding all the kids, and we're counting on the numbers, making sure we have a good head count. Has it been a
Yes.
good, successful?
Yes, it has. It has been. Our families have stepped up and turned in their income surveys, and we've done well.
That's good. Thank you.
Whoever was in charge of those surveys, we need to thank them. If it's you or whoever.
It's
we
not
need to
me,
thank them.
it's our student nutrition
That it was
department.
It was based on those surveys,
Absolutely.
income surveys.
They were much easier to do, and moving on to the debt service budget. The thing to note there is our first interest payment for our bond. New bond will be made this coming year. The funds that will be used to pay for that came from our proceeds. So we are not going to increase our tax rate for the bond fund. These are coming from the proceeds from the sale.
So what I'm hearing you say is that through the state funding increase, M&O tax rate would drop, and debt service tax rate does not go up for the next.
Right, the
budget
debt
period.
service tax rate did not go up. Property values did.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, property value did, so
Yes.
therefore there was an increase in the taxes. So people were
Yes.
confused about that when they were saying, because they understood there was not gonna be a tax increase, but it's because the property value went up.
Right. And which the state mandated that we do.
Right, right.
I think it's something that probably newspaper would educate people a bit more.
They do a good job working with us, so
Right.
I'm sure we'll sit down with the paper and walk through this, and we'll send things out as well, just to. as we- But right now, I just want to thank the team for their work, Ms. Barber, in their office, for all the work they've done, the state legislature for really coming through. I really appreciate our guys, Senator Claudia, Senator Nichols, for their work and support, and all the staff, for understanding that we're in a healthy spot right now, and let's remain that way. Let's take care of our needs, invest in our programs and our kids, and respect the funds that we have. And I really thank them for that as well.
Well, I'd like to just say thank you because it gives a clearer picture, being on the board going on the third year, I finally have some ideas and, having some knowledge of the budget, but just to see the difference in the amounts that we have makes it really nice to see that we were able to do some things that needs to get done, and so we appreciate the hard work that you guys did to give that, to be able to do that, so.
I want to reiterate Dr. Groman's comments earlier. I'm extremely excited that we were able to add those 2 police officers. Thank you for those
Yes.
efforts to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, Mr. Fraley. Toward the very end of my so-called operation, there was a talk that they take the revenue out of the concession stands, where to go. Now, what is the plan on that?
Well, I'm not aware of a plan. Current reality is that I've not chosen to wade into those waters yet.
Okay.
They've gotten kind of territorial with those.
That, there used to be always a fight over it.
We need to have some groundwork before we start talking about that, any changes there.
Right. I can't tell you what direction, but if I was asked what would I do, I said the income would be generated, collected, and add a portion to every sports for when they go out of town, they can actually eat a good meal.
Something to think about?
Okay.
Ms. Barber, back to a question with teacher salaries. Notice that teachers with 5 years more experience, that there's a,
Yes, and that is the next part of our budget workshop for Mr. Martin to present the compensation plan.
well, again, board members, you have any other questions about, at this time, any questions? Again, Mr. Fraley and to Ms. Barber and the team, thank you all for the great work and looking forward, excited, nothing but excitement for our district, for our students, our staff, and the things that need to be done, we're going to have an opportunity. So thank you.
We're excited to bring good news.
We like good news. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, good evening, President Neal, distinguished members of the board, Interim Superintendent Fraley. Thank you for allowing me to come up and present a draft copy or proposed compensation plan for the 1920 school year. If you will just follow along with me, and we'll start on page 4. I'm just going to highlight the major sections of the comp plan and the major changes. First of all, starting with, we currently now have 997 full-time and part-time employees. You see the breakdowns, the new breakdowns that have been calculated here. And you see that we made changes to our student enrollment. It is moderate decline of student enrollment that we're having, and that we're hoping to recapture and get more students in the upcoming school year. But currently, historically, there is a decline there. So these are our breakdowns. On page 5, administration is recommending increasing our substitute pay from $75 a day to $85 per day for substitute teachers. And also, another change that we're recommending is paying certified teachers who sub for us $100 a day beginning the first day of work. If you would turn to page 7.
Mr. Martin, just one question. Back
Yes,
on
sir.
page 4.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the pie shade for teachers and nurses and librarians at 72% of the budget, compensation budget.
Mhm.
That's instruction, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
72% of it is.
72%, yes,
Is that
sir.
right for kids?
Yes, that's very good.
Thank you.
On page 7, administration's recommending the teacher compensation plan. I forgot to mention, if it's struck through in red, we're removing it. If it is in blue, we are adding it, or it's a change. And this scale reflects teacher, nurses, registered nurses, and librarians. And if you look at the schedule, basically, teachers steps 0 to 6 is going to receive an increase of about 6.5%. 7 to 13 on the steps is about 8%. 14 to 19 step is 9%. 20 to 25 is about 10%, and then 35 is 11% increase in salary on the teacher salary schedule.
Mr. Martin, I noticed that it says master's degree stipend is $1,000, only applies to teaching positions. Is there a reason? Wasn't it like anybody that had a master's would get a stipend?
No, sir. Certain job categories require a master's
Right.
as part of their job description requirement. So if your job description requires a master's degree, then you don't receive the
You don't
stipend.
receive- okay.
But a teacher who has earned their master's degree and
Does
is
get
in a teaching position earns the $1,000 a year stipend. Thank you for that question.
You know, Mr. Morton, as you, not today, that sometimes beginning teacher salary is going to be at $42,000 for Nacogdoches.
Yes?
I'd like to know what the other 9 county school districts are, 8 school districts in the county, sometimes when you have an opportunity. Now,
Yes, sir. We can get that information
We
for
look
you.
for that.
Another recommendation by administration is that we increase the bilingual elementary classroom teachers' stipend to $4,000. Currently, it is at $3,000. We're recommending a $1,000 increase to those teachers who teach, who are certified to teach and teach in an elementary bilingual classroom.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was looking at this 2 days ago, the number of teachers we have 0 to 5 in the different groups. And it seems like we're a little top-heavy on the newer teachers, 10 years and younger. So for right now, with these raises going higher for if that cohort follows, when that hits that one group, that's gonna be significant increase to us. So are we tracking that by how that's gonna move up? Like, do we have a large group that's gonna go from this year it's this, and the next year it'll jump significantly? So
Yes,
let's
sir.
say, it's at 15 years where they go up higher?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a bunch of 14s this year, and we have a disproportionate in 10 to 14, they were all at 14. So next year, they're all going to move to 15, and that's going to jump it disproportionately. Are we tracking it like that by those groups where the pay jumps are, or not?
What we find is we have a large attrition amount in our younger teachers. And so when it finally comes down to it, it isn't a huge group that is suddenly new to, making that huge jump. It levels out as the experience level increases for those teachers.
Right, well, I'm talking about the senior teachers. I'm talking about 15 years, 20 years, 25, because once they're with us, they're going to stay with us. And just so that we don't have like a disproportionate jump in I don't know how you figure that, but it's just tracking each group. It's kind of like we track first the 8th, the 9th through 12th, We've got a great big class, we've got to prepare for
Right.
this big class, and so I guess you'll do that in the budgeting. You just say, we know
Right.
there's a big
The-
one coming this year.
The salary schedule, you get paid where you fit in,
Right.
and it's hard to predict because things happen. After 10, 15, 20 years, someone may marry or they may move into another position. So it's kind of hard because it's not an easy number to we can speculate, but that's all it is. And so I wouldn't build a budget and make, determinations based on that. There are two variables to it.
I don't think I'm communicating what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, we want to make sure that we reward teachers that stay a longer time. And that, I think that's built into what we're saying. We want them
The salary
rewarded
schedule is
for
what
their
we do.
service.
That's why we do that. Yeah,
So I think if I took all I said that was confusing, that's what I see you built that in, and I like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we
Yes,
want
sir.
to keep all teachers, but particularly
absolutely.
those experienced teachers.
So
Yes.
a veteran teacher with 25 years' experience will make $59,419. If they have a master's degree, they'll make another $1,000, so they could be at 60.
Yes, sir.
Is that?
That is correct.
That's great. Absolutely great.
And that's also good to encourage people to go get their master's degree.
Yes.
Yes, there is some incentive built
We're in a
in there.
university town with a great university, so get the master's degree, that's improve instruction in the classroom.
And every time the board approves a raise, the salary schedule adjusts accordingly. So-
If I may draw your attention to page 9. Here, our administration's recommending creating a salary schedule for counselors alone. Our counselors have fallen behind, almost level or equal with our teacher pay in some cases. We've done some studies and came up with a recommendation that we feel pretty solid about. So now, and this is a new hire guide for teachers, or excuse me, counselors, but now we'll be able to place counselors on a salary schedule rather than a minimum, midpoint, and max system, which will keep it more consistent and keep the counselor who has earned a master's degree and an extra license pay above that of a classroom teacher.
Yes, sir.
And so the counselors and the social workers, they have to pay for their own license to renew the license? The district doesn't pay for their license?
That's correct, yes, sir. They have to pay for their own.
Mr. Martin, this is great, been a long time coming for this
Been a
council.
long time, yes, sir.
Yeah,
You're
because,
correct.
I mean, the work they do, and this keeps them at that, and this is an incentive for teachers that make more going to counseling. And so, we've had a shortage for a long time, so this is an opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for
Thank
this.
you. Page 13.
Yeah,
We will, our stipends, we have just a couple of changes, and mainly they're housekeeping items here at the bottom. We just changed the verbiage. We're going to spread these stipends over a 12-month period rather than 11-month. If we have everything in by September the 15th from our campuses, then we would begin paying our stipends on a 12-month schedule. In the past, we've paid them on an 11-month schedule, just because we don't have all the information in time. But this year, we're going to divide them out.
If I could, Dr. Roman, you had a question earlier about UAL campus stipends. That's on page 12.
Yes,
Yes.
page 12.
Athletics on page 11 and the other stipends on page 12.
Here are the two blue items on page 12. We're just doing some housekeeping. These are stipends we've been paying. We just did not have them listed in the comp book properly. There were no changes in amounts for our stipends. There were no recommendations for that this year. On page 13, we have our academic and career and technology education stipends. There's only one change here, well, a couple of changes. One is the LPAC. We're taking that out. We've made those positions now across the district. Last year, we just took a person would make teacher pay, and we would add a $1,000 stipend on top of it. Now, it's rolled into the budget as a full-time position, so there's no need for a stipend. At the bottom, we have a stadium AV production stipend that we're recommending, and we actually paid that stipend this year, as well as the AV production assistant for $1,000.
These are the folks who operate the class, for those who operate the video board and all the radio work.
Mr. Martin, I'm just curious, if you look at the stipends that you have for student services, and just my question is, what's the difference because of a bilingual LSP getting $3,000 and social workers getting $2,000? That's just, I mean, just from my experience in being a bilingual social worker for the district, it was, I mean, I spent a lot of time dealing with that, and I just wondered how you ended up with that amount for bilingual social workers versus LSSPs.
That amount has been there for a while. It's definitely something we can go back and revisit. I don't know what the rationale there was.
Right.
Do we do a salary study? TASB, do they work with stipends?
Yes, sir, they did do that.
And then I see that they've been increasing. That's great that they've been increased, but I'm just wondering the difference, because if you're interpreting and you're translating, it's the same for somebody that's got a master's degree as it does for somebody that's got a bachelor's degree. So that's just my rationale on,
Okay.
from my past experience anyway.
Thank you for that, Mr. Montoya. Page 15. This is our administrative and professional employee pay, and administration is recommending a 3% flat raise for pay grades 1 through 7 and a 2% flat raise for pay grade 8. We can go page by page if you like.
Okay, now,
If it pleases the
would you
board.
say that again? Would you say that again? It's 3% for,
A 3% flat raise for all administrative and professional employees, as well as clerical, paraprofessional, manual trades. And then, with the exception, 2% for pay grade 8 in administrative and professional employees. And we'll walk through it. Let's just walk through it real
Okay.
quick, and I'll just show you, okay?
Can I ask a question right here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we want to look at how much the teachers are going to get a raise, I know it's comparing apples and oranges, but what percent is their pay increase?
The minimum their pay increase was 6.5%.
Okay, minimum is 6.5.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, so on page 15, we, as Mr. Fraley mentioned earlier, as you give every other year, we have to adjust our salary schedule to move it to adjust for the raises or to adjust for compensation increases. So we've done that. We've struck out in red, and we've done the blue with the new salary proposed schedule. So every pay grade, if you flip over to page 16, so 1 through 7 in this group, we're recommending a 3% flat raise for. Pay grade 8, we are recommending a 2% flat raise.
And I may want to revisit that.
I was going to ask.
We discussed that a little this morning, but I'm still kind of scratching my head about that.
Okay.
You know.
Yes, sir.
so, yeah, I'm having a hard time distinguishing. Pay grade 8 would include employees such as?
It's right here. Anyone that's assistant superintendent or chief officer.
Okay.
So so those are examples of the positions in that? grade, or that's the positions?
That's
in
the
that grade?
positions.
All
That's
of
the
them, okay.
position. And they would only get a 2%.
Correct.
Mr. Fraley, would you revisit again?
Yes, sir. Well, I
Grade
got to
eight.
talk to Ms. Barber, because I don't want to give her a cardiac arrest over there, because she's been so diligent about all of this. I just know there's an opportunity here, and I don't want to communicate that they're less valued. I know that there's a lot of chatter about
Yeah.
administrators, but they're very valuable.
Yes, they are.
The level of responsibility and, well,
Yep, and the fact that we don't have near as many as other folks around us would have.
And, I mean, I'm just trying to learn the titles just a little bit.
Okay.
So you have a director in pay grade 5 and an executive director in 7. What positions are a director? Because you got the principal at the elementary, is that the director of the, I mean,
No,
I guess
no,
I don't
no.
know who.
There's
that would
some
be.
who have, I'm trying to think, well, we tried to take these specific positions out of this. It used to be very, very detailed.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you are a director or a elementary principal, this is your pay grade.
So director of a program?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay, collects after a while.
Okay. And this gives you a lot more flexibility, so if there's any nuances in there and whatnot, you don't have to come back and redo your whole pay grade and whatnot.
I gotcha. Okay.
And you will see that throughout the book. We've tried to group our similar positions, such as director,
Okay.
in the pay grade, so that, as Mr. Fraley said, there used to be 10, 15 program directors listed in here
Okay.
who were all in the same pay grade.
It's all getting the same, just take up a lot of space.
Right.
So the assistant superintendent would be the
That's it.
cabinet,
Mhm.
right? Is that everybody that, is it
Yes.
you? Okay, and so,
Assistant super or chief officer.
Our chief officer.
chief- and that's y'all, okay, see? I can, I know. Okay, moving right along. Your badge doesn't say that, I don't think. I'm just playing.
Any other questions about the administrative professional?
On police, I see that the chief of police is pay grade 4, but the assistant is down at pay grade 1, is that right? Don't we have a lieutenant?
We do, and he is in another pay grade located on over some.
Oh, okay.
So we'll move to page 18, please, as a board, and we'll talk about the clerical and instructional aid employees. Again, here, every pay grade we talk about from here on out will be, the administrators recommended a 3% flat raise. Again, it's trying to simplify the book. Pay grade 2, you see receptionist and clerk, and so again, we had all these titles for folks, and now we're condensing them down. A receptionist is a receptionist, a clerk is a clerk, no matter where they're located or what department they work for.
Mr. Martin, where is the athletic secretary fits in there?
She is going to fit in the secretary 3. If I'm not
Grade
mistaken,
5.
maybe, yeah.
Grade 5.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Page 19.
Secretary 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Questions about page 18 or 19?
Can you explain page 20?
yeah,
Sure. That one's a fairly easy one.
I was looking for.
This is
20.
the hourly salary schedule
You're making fun
on
of me.
page 20.
With a little-
If you'll join me on page 21, it's a little more detail. Again, administration's recommendation is 3% flat raise for the positions listed in this pay grade.
You said 3% in this?
Yes, ma'am.
Section?
Yes, ma'am. I will draw your attention back to Dr. German's question earlier about the police sergeant. In this particular pay grade or pay class, we are recommending adding a pay grade 8 for the sergeant of police. If you'll notice back over here on page 22, our recommendation is to move police officers up a pay grade, therefore requiring us to create a new pay grade for the police sergeant. So we're recommending moving those police officers up a pay grade.
Mr. Martin, since you're on the police officers, sometimes they do a lot of things off duty. For example, games, supervisions, things of that nature. Are they entitled of an hourly salary as well, plus the salary?
Yes, sir, they do get overtime.
They deserve it.
Yes, they do.
A lot of hours.
Questions about pay grade? Okay.
Now, Mr. Morton, I was looking at the pay range, minimum, midpoint, maximum.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed that there's, the increase will be able to be competitive
Yes, sir.
as with other markets in the area to maintain that. I don't know how often you adjust that range, but that would make it more competitive,
Every other year.
is it?
Yes, sir.
And we have at times, based on data, had to
Right.
come back to the board and say, we need to do something now.
Yes.
And I've been here a year, how many times, but we have made a couple adjustments. So I just thank the board for that. So,
Yes,
So
the-
we do have that flexibility to change it anytime that we need to change it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Board, if you recall, last year, our HVAC guys, we came back to you all and asked to adjust those salaries for those guys, and you all graciously approved, and we appreciate that. Yeah, just based on the market, if the market
Yeah.
changes or
Yes.
there's a shortage, then superintendent can always come back and recommend to you guys to change a pay scale.
But that would be dependent on whether we have the money or not, or is that required by law if it changes in the market?
No, the law doesn't require us in this, but we will analyze the budget. We have these positions in pay grades. Some are filled, some aren't filled.
Right.
And so the budget expenditures may fluctuate, and we find that since we haven't filled this position,
We have it.
those resources should go to a place that we have a really, really critical need in. Okay, so we made some changes like that, and the board has supported that.
How about our turnover in technical support? Are we doing okay with that?
We've been pretty steady. Yes, sir, we are doing okay in technical support, which brings us to page 25. We're doing well. In fact, superintendent's approved another 2 positions for those guys. Our technology continues to grow. We're going to have new schools coming on board, so we need the personnel as well to support those devices and our teachers.
And it's also, we're looking at replacing the computers on the campuses as well. So we'll need installation and that kind of support for that, so.
Correct. So page 25 is our technical support employees. And again, the recommendation there is 3% flat rate.
6 is board members. That's 26 for board members.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that was page 20.
Yeah, it's the back of the packet.
That's what I said, page 26.
3% increase, well, let's give you 10%. You guys have been working hard. You've had a great year. Mr. President, if I could, again, I want to thank Mr. Whitaker. He came on board this past year, and Mr. Martin has worked very diligent with him and the HR team. We just have a lot of hardworking folks that are really trying to do the right thing, and we really, really appreciate them. And we can't pay them all that they're worth, but we try to create an environment where they can work and thrive in as well. And so we just have a lot of good things happening here, and it starts at the top. We had a great year with the board, and look forward to another great year.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, any further questions on the budget, the compensation plan, any?
And this is something we'll be dealing with next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if any questions become up between now and then, we can contact.
Ms. Barber or myself and them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be going.
Anyone else? Any
Mr.
questions?
President,
concerns?
I just want to pass something out for the board,
Yes.
if I may. This is something that actually Mrs. Fitch and I talked about some time back. You got this already, Mr.
Yes.
President, down there. This is just some research that kind of supports our pre-K initiative. This is some research that I became familiar with many years ago in terms of literary development and vocabulary development. Dr. Hill took a team up to Midlothian, and they looked at a pre-K center there, a pre-K academy. And I noticed they used some of the same research, the Hart-Risley research. And we're really working very hard to improve vocabulary development in our pre-K level. We think that that readiness skill is very critical to our work here. You see that there is a gap of 30 million words in terms of experience between what they call a child from professional family, a child in so-called welfare family. There are exceptions, but there's a lot of truth in that research as well. And so we've got to try and compensate for that. And the pre-K center, that is a lot of what this is all about, is enriching environment, vocabulary development, print-rich environment, all the reading readiness skills that we have kind of scattered right now. We're going to bring it all together. And I'm looking at that first, we'll say maybe the second pre-K cohort. That cohort matriculating through our school system, we expect tremendous things out of them, performance-wise, academically, behavioral will be better. When children run out of words, they use something else. We've noticed that. So that's what we're trying to do. And then the other cohorts after them, we should have those processed down pretty tight. Those in the cohorts ahead of them, we're going to keep doing all we possibly can to get those kids up to speed as well. So I just want you all to have this. So. More to come.
As we look toward bringing that kind of centralized district-wide pre-K online, are you looking at hiring kind of a director to oversee? I guess would that be, I guess that's equivalent to a principal, or I don't know. What's the format of that going to look like?
A couple of things. We will certainly have a principal, or which we may call a director or whatever it is, over that school. They'll have the staff they need, administrative support staff. Be certain that our central office teams are very, very focused on supporting as well.
So somebody kind of that has a specialization in pre-K, because it's so very different, I would assume.
Specialization, mainly passion. Passion.
Very
We'll
well
provide
said.
professional development out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Because you can't learn too much in working with pre-K students. And we're very, this thing, probably the most exciting thing I'm most excited about is this. Because I can see how, what a difference it makes in children. If I should open up a school in one part of town, school in the same year in another part of town, everything was the same except for the experiences that the kids had. And kids from families that had these experiences out of the gate were performing at a very high level. The other school, we got them there, but they didn't begin there. And the big difference is what this research kind of intimates.
Would a specialized pre-K librarian be a part of this plan?
Well, not having the plan developed yet, we're going to be utilizing resources from the university. I've reached out to a former person at that university who was a friend of mine that I think will be on our team, our advisory team. And what they say we need, by Joe, we're going to try to find a way to get it.
Like what's in the library will have to be, like, what's there
Most
is
certainly.
not going to help them.
Oh, no.
We'll have to have a new library, pre-K library.
Exactly, yes, sir, yes, sir. Learning centers, themes, all kinds of things. We're going to convert the gym into a thematic space.
Mr. Fraley, I know that transportation has difficulty finding a bus driver. Am I correct?
You're very much correct, yes, sir.
When I was talking to other ADs in the past, they said they built in the coach's contract, for example, $1,500 that they have to drive their vehicle to every game, the bus.
We're having those conversations, as a matter of fact. Coach Allman, he's having those conversations, getting more of the CDLs. Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
It would help Mr. Lampkin out tremendously.
Yes, sir.
And we want to keep him happy.
And if they go hourly, we would have a conflict, because they say, a bus driver get that much, why don't I get? We had that problem.
Right.
with 2 or 3 of those
It'd have to be a
coaches
set
in the past.
stipend more than likely, yes.
Yes, sir.
It's not quite the full-time professional bus drivers, and I say professional bus drivers. There's a different level of responsibility than someone driving a team. You know, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Fraley, just one last comment on the Academy for Early Learners.
Yes, sir.
You know, when we do this, I hope there's some way we can engage our parents. It is critical to me, I think, that if our parents can follow through at home and work with our kids. I think about you all sitting here at this table. I know what you did with your kids at home. You exposed them, you work with them. But if our young parents know how to do that and then get engaged, it'd be unbelievable. I was down there, just very briefly, and I'll stop. I was at the barber shop the other day, and we have some books in the barber shop concerning black men, where we have a reading program. We want to encourage early literacy. There are books over there. The mom was sitting there holding this little 3-year-old. And I asked the mother, I said, do you mind if I read to him? Because he was just conversation in the barber shop, you guys know. So I went and picked him up. She said, go ahead. And I read a couple of books to him. And he just sort of engaged. He became a little sponge. And then when it was time my haircut, I put him down. He went to mom. He handed mom the book for mom to read. And then he went back, got another book. And so if we can, that was quality time.
Yes.
That you do for your child at home and work with them. So I'm hoping that this process, that we can engage our parents and how important it is for them to also work with their kids at home.
Mr. Neal, Mr. Montoya and I were at a meeting this past Friday morning, and there's a conversation that I think all this will kind of roll into
Yes.
for our community, and I'm very excited about that work. And we have a lot of good things happening out there, but we got to bring them all together. Bring them all together and get very, very, very focused. And if we can accomplish that, man, the future is so bright. The future is so bright. It really is. Not only on the pre-K side and then the workforce development side, what we're doing to improve our facilities for kids, get more involved athletically, but also the fine arts director we're hiring. There are just so many things we're trying to do to get our kids to create ownership and creating their own future. And that's where the magic is. And again, I had to say it because it's not everywhere. I just thank the board. Did my evaluation already, so I'm not trying to kiss up to you. You know? I just know that many places are so consumed in political spats that they don't get there. We don't agree on everything, but we're all wanting the same thing. We're all, and I think that's something you all should be celebrated for.
And I'm thinking there are 2 young men that was in the automotive mechanic department
Yes.
on job this week at Tippin Ford.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't that amazing? Just amazing to see that opportunity for the kids and the community pulling together.
And we're looking at that signing ceremony
Is it?
for the CT as well. We're working through that.
I've been asked several questions. When are they gonna start building? And I told them soon.
Yes, sir. We've still been working out the details with our contractor. I think we may have gotten there Friday, I think. But we're still getting all the design things together and just getting all the questions answered. Make sure we're in compliance with all the different code requirements that have emerged and trying to anticipate things that may emerge as well. And I'm gonna probably reach out to y'all and have another idea, something that 2 things have happened and got me thinking a lot. So I'll reach out to you all to talk with you about it, if you're okay with that. Can see where you are.
We have a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
So move in a second. We have a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We adjourn. Thank you all.
You know, I
Great
always
meeting.
good in behalf of Reverend Irvin.
Sir?
I always good in behalf of Reverend Irvin.